Money Talk Radio, WSBR.
IT orchestration stories from CDW.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Seibel. I'm excited to announce my new show called Ask Robert, which will be on Fridays from 3 to 4 p.m. I'm an attorney and public speaker. I began my career in Wall Street and formed my own law firm over 30 years ago in New York and Florida. I've specialized in tax planning for celebrities and high-income individuals, as well as representing corporate and international business transactions. I am currently associated with a global commercial real estate and business financial company. On my show, we'll be covering stock market wrap-up for the week, as well as mortgage financing, investing, real estate, insurance law, and other general subjects of interest to you, with my very fascinating guests. I also plan to have a special Ladies' Day 1 week a month to cover issues of greater interest to women, such as divorce, social, and financial matters, with very special female guests. Now, let's on with the show. Hello, welcome to my show, Ask Robert, the Women's Prophet. Glad to have you back. And I want to welcome again back to my show this week, Faith Washington, who I enjoyed having last week and who was so entertaining and so knowledgeable that I brought her right back. Hello, Faith.
Hi. How are you, Robert?
Wonderful.
Thanks for inviting me back.
My indeed pleasure. So today we want to get into some other matters. I will have another guest on my show who will be speaking about the stock market. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware of what's been going on in the market. We've had a bit of a rebound. I know you listen to various shows, CNBC, MSNBC, Fox Business, all these other shows. I'm not attempting to compete with those shows. I'm only on for an hour. I want to dedicate my show basically to financial and legal issues dealing with women. I find, again, that in practice, there are many men on television, such as the shows I've just mentioned, who speak principally to men. Financial news, all kinds of news, MSNBC, Fox NBC, Business, CNBC, etc. And then we have women, Susie Orman, our friend Oprah Winfrey. We have other women like Wendy Williams, Ellen DeGeneres. We have other talk shows like The View and the Talk Show. And all of these are women speaking to other women. The only men on TV that I know about, or on radio for the most part, are two men, Dr. Oz, who speaks about medical issues, health issues, and Dr. Phil, who talks about relationship issues. In the mix, there doesn't seem to be somebody like me who's an attorney, businessman, who's interested in talking to women about business issues, financial issues, and legal issues. And I find, unfortunately, in our society that men tend to be a little bit too selfish too often and think about themselves and don't think enough about you women out there. Well, I do, okay? That's my way of doing things, and that's the way I've conducted my law practice for many, many, many years. I do a tremendous amount of pro bono work on behalf of women, and it gives me great joy. And this show is dedicated to helping women in these areas. So when you do call in and you have questions, whether you use my email address, robert@askrobert.co, or you call in on the call-in line, 888. The number is, again, 888-721-0074. Again, 888-721-0074. That's the number to call in later in the show. We'll be handling questions. So what are some of the issues, again, now that we're going to be handling on this show? Well, I expect to talk about cryptocurrencies. And these are areas that women ask about as well. They're not just men, okay? Because crypto is on, in the news all the time. Starting a company, that's something that we're going to get in today. And of course, Faith, I know is going to have a lot to tell us about that. We're going to talk about trading stocks, trading online, opening up a brokerage account, speaking to your broker, learning various terminology that people use in the stock market, which some people are not familiar with, particularly women. I'm very, very sensitive to women whose husbands have passed away suddenly and left them with financial responsibilities. They have nowhere to turn. They end up calling their lawyer or their husband's lawyer or their accountant, and really they're, in a little bit aside from being in shell shock over the death of their loved one, they're really not sure, what to do. What decisions are they going to make for their family? How do they decide how to handle the family's finances? Where do they turn? What's the best moves to make? Should they continue with the same lawyer? Should they get a new lawyer? What about when the will is read? What about the provisions in the will? Is there trust planning? All of these are very, very important questions which women need to know. Now, another issue which is even more prevalent today amongst the people I talk to, the women I speak to, is divorce. We know that 1 out of 2, unfortunately, women today get divorced. Okay, it's about that. It may even be getting higher in time. And unfortunately, again, and particularly here in South Florida, which is one of the divorce capitals of the United States, women are really often put in a position where they don't know what to do upon a divorce. Very often, there's no prenuptial agreement, and often women are just cast astray by a husband and told, sue me, go after me, try to get some alimony, try to get some child support. We know all about deadbeat husbands, people who don't pay alimony, but women are really, really put, in a difficult position. If suddenly one day her husband is supporting the family and the next day he's no longer there, and if the wife isn't working and she doesn't have her own income and they don't have any kind of substantial savings or other assets, and she's got to pay the mortgage, and she's got to pay the house bills, which are going to not stop, well, suddenly that can become a major problem. I mentioned last week, Faith, about having life insurance or some other liquid assets. I'm sure that you talk to women all the time as a life and business coach that you are. What do you say to these women, when they come to you for that kind of information?
Well, for the most part, women are going to be either looking into transitioning from corporate America to becoming an entrepreneur, or we're going to talk about their business if it's already existing. I don't really get into the details of those types of things, like you're talking the life insurance.
Right.
I'm always going to encourage them to do that, and I always encourage people to have a trust rather than to have a will, because you don't want to go intestate after something occurs. So, those are the kinds of things that I can give them tips, but I would always recommend you need to see the correct kind of attorney. If you're not visiting with an attorney that has, those boundaries, then you can sell yourself short. It can be a real problem. So, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, and some of the other areas, of course, that we'll be speaking about are applications for various other benefits, Social Security benefit, disability Social Security benefit, what about if my husband, or my ex-husband, I should say, is not paying child support? What are my remedies? Should I take him to court? If so, what are going to be the problems? Incidentally, a lot of people today don't get married, but they live together. I've known many people that can live together for many years. Could be 10, 15, 20 years, and suddenly there's a breakup, and the woman wants to say, well, okay, what do I get? Well, guess what? We're going to get into that area about common law marriage and why the state of Florida doesn't recognize common law, and most states in the United States don't. This is a serious problem. I intend to address that very, very important area on a future show. Again, I'm just touching upon some of the general areas. Now, I want to just make a couple of general statements, and then we're going to get into more of a discussion with Faith on some of the areas that she is really, really very knowledgeable about. In the market, there's a saying that we sell in May and then we go away. And then you stay away all summer and you come back in September And then you start to, because the summer is always kind of a quiet period, and it's kind of a dangerous period to hold on to stocks because the market can kind of get slow. And then when you come back in September, you start feeling your way again. And frankly, this year being a midterm election year, historically going back to, I believe, 1974, in every midterm election year, the market was generally up in the first 4 months, usually not too dramatically, but up. And then we had an adjustment in May through the summer and going into September. And then, because it was a midterm election year, generally speaking, there's been a rally of up to 10% in the last couple of months of the year. Now, I'm going to put this question to my other guest today, Bruce Galloway of Galloway Capital, who I'm going to specifically ask that question to. But it's something that I think is of general interest to a lot of people, since a lot of people have their own brokerage accounts, whether they be online, with their own stockbroker. People are asking that question. And, of course, the biggest question this year is what's going to happen if the Republicans lose control of the White House and of the Senate, not so much the White House, but, of course, of the Senate and the House of Representatives. What will that do, to overall economic policy? Will it affect Trump economic policy? And we're going to get into that as well. Another area which I think you may want to give some consideration to is whether or not, in fact, there are any other factors at work that we have to consider. And again, I'm going to ask this of Bruce. We have the consideration of interest rates. Interest rates have been rising. The 10-year Treasury rate hit 3% the other day. That was not necessarily a good sign, although there's an offsetting factor, and that is the fact that it shows that the economy has been warming up. But again, if it gets too warm, the Fed's going to turn around and raise interest rates, which could have an inverse effect on the economy. Another problem is that oil prices are going up, all right? We have oil prices going up through OPEC. Even though the United States is becoming an exporter of oil, suddenly oil is going up about 30 cents a barrel in the last couple of weeks. And in fact, it may be, I'm sorry, not 30 cents a barrel, 30 cents a gallon at the pump. And who knows how much higher over the summer. Now, this could also be a problem. The fact of inflation could be a consideration. Another good factor is that North and South Korea suddenly this week are talking to each other, which is an amazing accomplishment. So hopefully that's going to be something of a positive nature. Now, I think this is pretty much some of the areas that we're going to be speaking to in the coming weeks. I really want to get into my lovely and very smart guest. Faith is a beautiful and very smart life and business coach. She is an author, a speaker. She has her own show called The Faith Washington Show, which is on Thursday evenings on WNN, same station, parent station here, from 7:30 to 8 on Thursdays. And she is now back to us to give us some advice. And I guess the first question I'm going to ask her today, Faith, is if a woman comes to you and she needs some advice, basically in setting up business or going forward, what are you going to tell her?
Well, what I like to do is if it's a woman who's transitioning out of corporate America to her own business, or she's got an idea, she's got a service or a product that she would like to provide, is I'm going to ask them a series of questions, because being an entrepreneur, as I have found out over the last couple of years, is a very interesting process. And I don't believe that every living human being is cut out to do entrepreneurial businesses. Some people are just meant to work for other people. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, I usually like to find out, do they have the skill set? And number one is, do they have the perseverance? Because you are going to go through a whole series of roller coaster rides, and I'm sure you can speak to that too. You've been there and done that. But are they going to have that ability to stick to it, stick-to-itiveness, perseverance? And also, are they going to be able to do 3 particular tasks? Are they going to be the visionary? Can they be a leader of a team of people as the business grows and as they need to create, more product, more service, etc.? And are they a technician? Are they going to be able to do pretty much every aspect of their business? So if you're starting out and let's say you're selling a widget, you've got the coolest widget on the planet, but you know what? Somebody else is going to come up with that widget as well. So you've got to be able to find a niche of audience that's going to want to buy your widget. And I just let them know, look, there's a series of things that you will have to go through. You're going to have to do the bookkeeping. You're going to have to do the organization. You're going to have to do all the admin. You are going to have to put these things together and be well versed at them before you hire anyone. I mean, unless this is a business that's, you know, you've had 1,000 people already buy something from you, which really doesn't happen. That's not normal. It's just so critically important that they're able to perform all of these tasks. And then as you grow and your business expands, then you're actually able to delegate. You hire people, you delegate, you get the right people on the bus, because that's critically important. And many people don't have the skill to hire someone that's going to, number one, mesh with them. They're going to have the same mission and vision, which is really something that you have to consider also. And when they have that, then got the right people, you're moving in the right direction, and are you going to be able to delegate what's not in your wheelhouse? Okay? I'm not admin. I admit that straight up front. I don't like the administrative part of business. Right. Okay? But can I do it? Absolutely, because I have to. I learned how to do it. So teaching someone else is a critically important part of the process. That's being the leader. So you've got the visionary, you have the visionary aspect, the leadership aspect, and then the technician aspect. You need to be able to cover all those bases, delegate where you need, but you're always going to be, as the entrepreneur who owns the business, you are always going to be the visionary. You have to be that person to see, where do you want your company to be in 6 months, in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years? What is the plan? You know, what is your financial plan? How are you setting this up for success? And it requires that you ask for help and support from other people around you. You know, like Robert's an attorney, you know, he would be able to help with certain aspects of the business. You're going to have somebody on your legal team to be able to speak to those points. You're going to have your partnership with vendors if you're doing a product. And maybe even people to help you with marketing if that's not in your wheelhouse and that's not something that you're strong at. So, you know, all these pieces come together so that you can be successful. You have to set yourself up for success. First, you create it here, because the mind is the most powerful thing that you are in possession of. You got to have faith in yourself, belief in the people that you are going to hire or that you do hire, and you really need to have a lot of people around you supporting you. You are the composite of the top 5 people that you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with people that are uplifting and encouraging and they're telling you to go for it, those are the people that you want to cling to. And then as you up-level, you'll up-level those people as well. So that's really the conversation that I like to have with women entrepreneurs or would like to be entrepreneurs.
By the way, I heard you say a moment ago, I guess you don't have any problem having faith in yourself.
No, I don't. I think it's a great foundation. I think your faith, yes. Faith. Exactly. I had to, or I never would have stepped out.
It's faith. Okay. Very good. Well, okay, that's very interesting. Now, there's a television show, it started a couple of years ago, I guess, on the heels of Shark Tank, which is, of course, enjoyed enormous popularity across the country. I think it's called The Prophet, which is kind of the name of my show partially. And a gentleman comes on, a very, very wealthy guy, I forget his name, and he is a backer of businesses. He'll come in and say, I like your business, I'm willing to invest $500,000, $1 million, but I want to be your partner, and here's what you're doing wrong, and we're going to retool the entire business. And literally these people who are literally floundering, or, you know, they don't know what to do, they turn over and they believe in him, and the show has been very successful. He does turn around a lot of businesses. They're not necessarily women's business, men's business, but a lot of what he does is, I find, I've watched only a handful of times, somewhat akin to what you've just said. He gives people confidence. He tells them to think more rationally, more logically, to set up the proper goals, to be more structurally sound in their business. Financially, of course, we all know one of the biggest problems with any business is undercapitalization.
Yes, we just ran across that this last week, and it's a very powerful thing when you're considering. This is what I tell people: consider the cost before you start a business. If it's with a product, okay, services are a little different story. Okay, you don't have as much, your overhead is not nearly as strong as it is with a product.
Yes.
But with a product, you've got to put all of these things together. You need to have a great business plan. You need to do some comparison work. You need to have your ducks in a row, and you need to have a very realistic amount of cash that you're going to need to capitalize this, and make sure that the first time you do a raise, in other words, you're raising capital for your business, that you do it correctly out of the gate. Because if you don't do that, you set yourself up for failure. Because if the people viewing you for a second raise see that you haven't met your goals, you haven't met your marks, they're going to look at that and go, not so much. I'm probably not thinking this is a great investment for me. So that's the encouragement that I give people, male, female, what have you. It's you need to think about this before you do it.
Now, you and I just had a conference call a couple of days ago with a couple of ladies who are contemplating starting a new apparel line, and that was a subject that came up with the conference call about the capitalization, how much money they really needed versus what they were originally putting in their private placement memorandum. And I have found over the years, many years, that very often people don't project the real need of, and they do not capitalize the business properly, at least on the gate. And your point is very well taken. It's very difficult to go back 6 months or a year later and say, sorry guys, we didn't meet our expectation, or we didn't meet our profit projections, and we missed them not only by a little, we missed them by a lot. And that can create major problems. And often, most businesses will close because of undercapitalization more than any other factor.
Right. The undercapitalization, but also not thinking through the entire process. There's so much that goes into figuring out all the things that you need for a business. And if you don't have multiple sets of eyes looking at that plan, you're going to miss stuff. You're going to miss things that are going to cost you big money. And if you're not thinking about that, once again, we come into that undercapitalization, which can shoot you in the foot. And you don't want that. You want to make sure that you're getting sufficient cash to run your business. And you're going to have ups and downs anyway, but that should not be one of them.
Now, when you do a coaching, particularly of women that come to you, are there any particular problems or questions that women raise that you're not quite hearing from men? I mean, anything that they're worried about more than what men, or is it basically the same?
No, I think it's very similar. I think that for men and women, public speaking or speaking to large groups or groups at all, can sometimes be a stumbling block for them. They're just maybe not quite prepared. And what I like to tell people is this: it's very, very simple. It's just like being on Facebook, radio, TV, wherever you're at. It is, you need to have confidence in yourself before you get in front of the camera or before you get in front of the audience. And you need to know one thing: it isn't about you. It's no longer about faith. So if I'm going to get up and speak to people, or I'm going to be on my show, which I've been doing a year and a half almost, it's about my guests. It's about the audience. What kind of value are you adding to those people? So then when you get up in front and you speak and you're going to do a TED Talk, you're going to do this, that, or the other thing, what is happening inside of you should be, I have all this valuable knowledge and information that I'm sharing with you. And that way it takes all the pressure off from you, and you're just the purveyor of the information. And then it's authentic, and then it comes out of you, and there's a vulnerability that people can open to. People will relate to that. It's That's just a rule of thumb that I give them. And it really does help most people. Or you can just tell people, just think of everyone in their underwear. That works too.
I enjoy, I always have, I taught graduate school business many, many, many years ago after my law school education. And I've always enjoyed over the years giving lectures and public speaking, various subjects. I find it gives me a lot of satisfaction, and I'm trusting that you get that same
I do love
thrill and enjoyment out of it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing to be able to not only have knowledge, but to be able to communicate knowledge.
True. That's very true. I think that gives you something extra that many people don't have because they're not willing to place themselves in front of a camera or, take the critique that's going to come with that, because we're definitely going to be critiqued.
Right.
Whenever you're standing in front of an audience of any sort, or even on Facebook, TV, what have you, there is that, hey, you know what? Well, I don't like this and I don't like that. And you just have to stay centered within yourself and know that, something, you're not going to please everybody.
Wonderful. Well, Faith, I really want to thank you again for
Robert.
coming back today. And I certainly hope you're going to return, because you're rapidly becoming my favorite guest. And aside from how lovely and smart you are, you're very personable, and I really enjoy that.
Thank you, Robert.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Okay.
All right, I'll see
Nice
you
to
soon.
see you.
Thank you,
Thank
darling.
you.
All right, take
Okay.
care.
Okay. All right, so now I'd like to talk about a couple of my sponsors and take a little break. The first of which is a company called Frolic Financial Group. Frolic Financial Group is headed by a guy named Mark Frolic. Mark Frolic is a very experienced life insurance salesman and estate planner. He's been doing it for about 20 years. His clients are across the country. He works with some of the most successful businessmen that I know and have heard of. And I've turned over clients of mine to Mark. He's done a brilliant, brilliant job. He's innovative. He's smart. He comes up with various very sophisticated programs to solve very large estate planning problems. He is very patient. He's a very polite kind of individual, easy to talk to, and always available. His offices are right here in Boca Raton. His phone number is 561-807-8707. Again, 561-807-8707. Mark can be reached through that office number. And if you have any difficulty getting a hold of him, you can call this station number, or you can get me on my private cell number, 917-885-2610. Again, my cell, 917-885-2610. If you have any particularly specific question of me or of one of my guests, I'm more than happy to take that question anytime. I'm available, and I'll be happy to answer them. Of course, you can also send me an email to robert@askrobert.co. Now, if you want to find out how to watch this show or listen to this show, we're on AM 740 on AM. We're on 96.9 and 103.9 FM. AM covers Jensen Beach all the way through North Miami. It's quite a large area. The FM station goes basically from Palm Beach County down to Dade County. I can also be seen on YouTube right now. You can go to the YouTube site and dial in AMP2 TV and the name of my show, Ask Robert. Hopefully by next week, you'll be able to go directly to my Ask Robert site. I also will have a Facebook site, a Facebook page. For the time being, you can go to the station Facebook, which is AMP2 TV Productions, then click on videos, and then scroll down for the show, Ask Robert. Any of those ways can get you to either view or listen to my show, and I hope that you will. I'm looking forward to my audience growing and growing, and people hearing about it more and more. Now, I also have another sponsor that I want to welcome to my show, and that's Global Loan. Global Loan is a commercial real estate financial lender. They do commercial real estate mortgages from $1 million as much as $500 million. So they're a very, very substantial firm. They've been in business for over 40 years, and they do business internationally. They can do loans anywhere from Central, South America, anywhere, Africa, you name it, they operate. So they have the capability to handle virtually any type of commercial real estate loan as well as business loan. They will do construction loans. They will do land loans. And I would encourage anybody out there that has that kind of a need to dial in to their phone number, which is 800-878-FUND, F-U-N-D, 878-FUND, which is 3863, Global Loan. They're available, and you can speak to them, and we will be happy to also take a call for them if you can't get through to them. Again, you can call me on my 917 number. Now, I expect to hear very shortly from my call-in guest, Bruce Galloway, who'll be calling me from the market. In the meantime, I'll speak a little bit about the market today. I know you heard a show before mine, and there'll be another show after mine, Online Trading. I do know that this week the earnings reports came out on PayPal, Amazon, Twitter, Microsoft. All of the majors came out with their earnings reports, of course, as well as Facebook, and all of them, their earnings were up very well, and as a result, the market took a nice spurt yesterday. It was up almost 300 points. Today it's been rather quiet, but of course, fortunately, we also got the good news coming out of North and South Korea. I would say, in all probability, that President Trump is not going to try to rattle the cage much more concerning the China tariff situation. It being now a midterm election year, I think he's not going to want to shake the market at all. And I'm just guessing that that issue will sort of sit on the back burner for a while, and he will not attempt to make it a major issue and let it die down a bit. But again, time will tell. Now, there's other news coming out of which we have to be concerned, and that is that, in fact, there are going to be some other factors coming out of the government in the way of changes of cabinet people. We've seen what happened the other day with regard to the VA nominee. He withdrew. There seems to be a lot of people coming in and out of Washington today. I'm not going to take any stance politically on whether it's good or bad, but there certainly has been a lot of activity in Washington. Whether that is having any direct effect on the market and on the economy, I do know that the market does get nervous when there's a lot of change. The market tends to award stability. They want to see things that are constant. They want to see earnings go up. They want to see the gross national product increase, which it just did the other day. We got a good reading on the GNP. It's up a bit. And overall, we know unemployment is down at record low levels. All of these factors tend to contribute to a healthy market. We've had a bull market now for 8 or 9 years. Everybody that I know keeps asking, how long can this last? Can it last longer? What's an important factor to always remember is that there are literally tens of millions of individuals that have been sitting on the sidelines for years now who have kept saying, well, the market's got to end, that bull market's got to end now, I'm not going to get in now, I missed it, it's too late, and this was 3 years, 4 or 5 years ago, and of course we know that they did not partake, and literally these people never, ever got to get the return that many other people have enjoyed. Now, it's not the only way to make money. Frankly, I'm a little bit upset that too many people use the market almost as a high-level gambling casino. They take whatever monies they have and they invest all of their money in the market, believing that it's the only thing that's going to happen, and it's only going to go up because it's been going up and up and up and up for the last 7 or 8 years. Well, you got to be careful. I'm old enough to know that there were times in our life when the market did take a hit. Many years ago in '87, I had money in the market all the way back then. I was a young man, but, we got devastated. The market went down in 1 week, close to 25%. I mean, we talk about the market going down 2 or 3% today in a week, and it's significant. The market goes from 25,000 down to 24,000 or 24,500, 500-point drop. Well, what about when the market went down, the Dow went down from 2,300, 2,200 to 1,700 in 1 or 2 days? This really had people going crazy, all right, including yours truly. Now, these are, could that happen again? It could. Do I think it will? I doubt it. But all I can tell you is what does go up can come down. So I would just ask and suggest to you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I would not put all of my savings, whether I derived it from a divorce, from the death of my husband, an inheritance, or I got it from my parents as a gift, a college gift for graduation, or I got it from my husband as a wedding present. I would be very, very careful of putting all of my money in a particular area. Another thing that you want to consider, of course, is where you're putting your money if you're going to invest your money in the market. You want to look at stocks that have growth if that's what you're looking for. It depends on how old you are. If you're 65 or 70 years old, you don't have the time for your stocks to grow over the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. On the other hand, you want stocks that are going to be safe. You want stocks that are going to be paying you a dividend or that are going to be there for you tomorrow and the next day. They're not going to fluctuate based upon sudden turns in the economy or sudden turns in world events. This becomes critical for older individuals. And all too often, these people become the pawns of unscrupulous stockbrokers who just grab their money, churn their accounts, get them into high-level, high-risk stocks, promise them the moon, and we've heard all kinds of horror stories about people losing fortunes, particularly down here in South Florida, where there have been thousands of retirees who have lost their money. Of course, we know the story of Bernie Madoff and the literally billions of dollars of people who lost their money. I had several clients who lost literally hundreds of millions of dollars with this man, one of whom just passed away recently. He went from probably being a multi-millionaire to dying almost penniless because of Mr. Madoff. So you got to be very, very careful. Now, if you're younger, of course, you have more time to recoup. If you make a mistake, well, you're still working, you're still making an income, and in fact, you have some time to regain that momentum should you lose it. But even if you're younger, I would urge you to be careful because you literally can get burned. Some of the areas that I'm looking into, which I mentioned last week, I love the marijuana field. I think marijuana is the new alcohol from 1930s, from Prohibition. You now have the same thing happening all over, and ironically, it's happening in the same place. Back in the the 20s and 30s, it was Canada that was producing alcohol when the United States had Prohibition, and again this time around, Canada has been producing marijuana for the last number of years. When it was legalized in Colorado in 2009, Canada jumped on the bandwagon. They're now, in July, about to be only the second country in the world that's going to legalize marijuana throughout the entire country recreationally. All right, we now have about 8 or 9 states in the United States that license it recreationally. We have about 25 or so states medically. I believe very, very definitely within the next 3 or 4 years that every state in the United States will legalize marijuana completely, recreationally and medically. Why? Because it's a revenue issue. It's not a social issue. It's not a medical issue. It's not a social issue. It's purely a revenue issue. Virtually every state in the United States is bankrupt. They're broke. They have no money to pay all their bills. And the public doesn't want their taxes raised any higher than the abominable taxes that they have right now, particularly in states like New Jersey, New York, California. The tax rate is just through the roof. But people don't mind sort of nuisance taxes, taxes on cigarettes, taxes on gasoline, and now taxes on marijuana. People, if they want something badly enough, they're willing to pay a premium for it. And right now, the taxes coming through on marijuana are astronomical. Colorado alone, in their first year, I understand, derived over $100 million in new tax revenue. And this is for a state with a population, I think, of under 10 million people. And now, if you start extrapolating out, Canada, for instance, has about 39 million people. Their taxes, of course, their tax revenues increase. California, which just legalized as of January 1, suddenly they expect this coming year to raise at least $3 to $4 billion in tax revenues, which is an incredible amount of additional money going into their war chest and to pay for their various bills. And people seem to be open to that. Now, medical uses of marijuana, of course, is another area where we haven't even scratched the surface yet, I believe, of all of the medical applications. I strongly believe that not only will there be all kinds of new areas for medical applications, which exist even beyond the applications today, there'll be areas of medical uses of marijuana which are going to do away with certain prescription drugs that are out there. Pain relievers, opioids, various other types of prescription drugs, which marijuana, through the various uses that they're finding out daily through additional research, are going to supplant. Now, this is an incredible breakthrough, and it will have drastic effects on our economy. They estimate, I believe, by the year 2050, that marijuana, the gross revenue from the marijuana industry will outstrip alcohol and tobacco combined. Certainly, the tobacco companies are already well aboard. They're already getting into the marijuana industry quietly, beginning, but you're going to start seeing companies like, Altria, Philip Morris, the big ones, R.J. Reynolds. These companies are undoubtedly getting heavily involved, and so are some of the major financiers in the country. And I don't want to drop names, but some of the household names in this country, some of the richest people in America are making major investments in marijuana because they realize that it's here to stay. And the level of profit so far, even in the last few years, has been astronomical. Some people who got in very, very early have literally made thousands of %. Okay, do we have a caller?
We have Carol on the line.
Okay, we have Carol. Well, Carol, what is your question, please?
Hi, Robert. Really enjoying the show. It's very informative.
Thank you.
I have a question. I am starting a new business, only I'm starting it with a partner. I'd like to know how that differs from starting a business on your own, and what do I have to do to protect myself in the event that there's difficulty with the partnership?
Okay, that's an excellent question, and one that we hear about all the time. Many women are willing to set up a company with a partner. It could be a male or a female. And, of course, the first thing I would suggest is that you do go to seek out the advice of a qualified attorney. And if you don't know one, I'll be happy to furnish one after the show is over. You can call me on my personal line again, 917-885-2610, or call into the show. Again, that number being 888 and 00. I'm sorry.
721.
Forgive me. I'm losing the number of my own show. I had it down here, and it is 888-721-0074. Pardon me. Okay. It's a brand new number. That's why it's supposed to be up on the screen. You can call in and get that information from me directly. So you'll go to an attorney, and what an attorney would say to you is that, in all probability, the first thing you want to do is create some kind of a partnership agreement. First of all, you want to set down the purposes of your business, What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? How much money you think you're going to have to put into the business? Who's going to be putting in the money? Who's going to be putting in the sweat equity? Are you going to be working the business together? Is somebody putting up the invention or the ideas? Are you going into like a service business? Are you going to be coming up with a product? Is one party the inventor of the product and the other party is going to be like the salesperson? So sometimes you got to identify, the inside person and the outside. Who's the manufacturer? Who's the salesperson? And of course, personalities are very, very important. You got to be able to get along. Quite frankly, if you don't get along from the beginning, you're not going to get along a week, a month, or a year later. So that's very, very important that you have a temperament that matches. If you're friends, that's fine. But once people are friends, going into business together sometimes, can create enemies very quickly if you don't get along with each other and on business mode. You have to be able to have the same kind of vision and direction. One may want to go one way, one may want to go another. One may want to develop one product line, one may want to go the other. So it's very, very important that you have sort of a unified vision. Now, once you do, and you have, let's say, a particular product in mind, let's say it's a clothing design. So now you want to go to a qualified attorney, business attorney, somebody you get on referral, not somebody you get to know on the internet. It's not somebody you go, surfing on the, through your iPhone, through an app. No, but you want to go to an attorney who you know. He could be some kind of other attorney. He could have been your attorney who handled some other matter for you. But usually attorneys know other attorneys, and particularly they know business attorneys. So I would get an attorney. Again, I volunteer to do it as far as recommending to you if you don't know of someone, and get a qualified attorney to sit down with you and map out the steps about setting up your business. Now, in all likelihood, you're going to want to set up a corporation or an LLC being a limited liability company. There's advantages to each. I'm not going to cover them at this moment. We will have a show where we'll compare corporations to LLCs, but for the moment, we're just going to make the advice that it would be a good idea to set up a corporation LLC. This insulates you from outside liability, and you can now conduct your company in a corporate or LLC structure rather than just in a partnership where various business people can go after you personally in the event you have any kind of debts. If you have a corporation or LLC, any legal actions, they have to bring their action against the corporation or the LLC. Therefore, you don't have that personal liability that you would as an individual proprietorship or partnership. So I always counsel people going into business that they should form an LLC or a corporation. Now, with that, of course, you want to also probably get eventually to the services of at least somebody. It doesn't have to be a high-level accountant with a big-name accounting firm, but you should have somebody who's a bookkeeper, who has some accounting background, somebody who hopefully will be able to render tax returns for you once the business starts to move. And presumably even in the first year, you're going to do some business. You don't want to have to rely strictly on money coming out of your pocket every time you have to pay a bill. It's very, very, very important that you have the right amount, at least of appropriate capitalization. And this requires a lot of discussion between the two of you as to what you believe is going to be your so-called burn rate. The burn rate means what is going to be your expenses on a weekly or monthly basis. How much you're going to be paying for rent, what are going to be your salaries of your employees if you're going to have employees, what about your factory workers if you're going to have a factory, what are going to be your cost of goods sold, what are going to be the cost of a warehouse if you're going to need a warehouse, what about your shipping costs. All of these costs and then some are all things that you have to list and determine what are going to be my monthly costs for running this business. And then, of course, what are going to be my costs at various production levels. Initially, we're not going to be producing 5,000 garments every week. We may only produce 5,000 garments in the first 6 months. But then if our line catches on and we get a major order from Macy's or Bloomingdale's or Saks, one of those major department stores, well, all of a sudden, we're going to be ramping up very quickly, and we're going to need a larger facility to produce our goods. We may have to go outside and start hiring a jobber to produce our goods. What is the cost? What is he going to ask for? What are the percentages of margins that we're going to get on the cost of our goods? to what we sell them for. This is, of course, a very, very vital decision that has to be made. If it costs us $10 a dress to make a dress, how much are we going to sell it for wholesale? And then how much are those dresses going to sell retail? These are very, very important questions. How are we going to market these dresses? Are we going to market them online? Are we going to use traditional distributors? Are we going to just have a showroom, in the garment center or some other place, in some other garment center in some other cities? Are we going to look to sell locally initially? Are we going to try to sell nationally? Are we going to really, are we concerned about our competitors ripping us off? Now, if you've got some unique designs that you believe are truly only yours and yours alone, you may want to file for a trademark or patents. Trademark on the name, patents on the design. It's not so easy to get a patent, but you may want to do that. Diane von Furstenberg, when she set up her company 30, 40 years ago, and she came out with her particular type of dress, I'm sure that she filed several patents which then protected that dress years and years and years later, on which she made hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, because she came out with this wrap dress which nobody had been wearing before, and I'm certain that she had at least a handful of patents. So that's another thing that you have to consider. Now, another thing that is also important is what kind of, if we're going to take offices, what kind of offices, and where are we going to be located? Location is important, but you don't want to spend all your money on rent. I would say that you don't want to spend more than, if you're going to, your projected revenues, let's say arbitrarily, are going to be, let's start modestly, are going to be $50,000 in a month. And that's already a generous number. I don't think you should be spending more than, and maybe let's lower the number, let's say $25,000. I don't think you should be spending on rent more than 10% of your revenue monthly on rent. So that, in my example, that would be maybe $2,500. Anything more than that, I think you're spending too much money, and I think you're going to run into financial problems just by having to pay your rent every month. Bear in mind that, the landlord is there every month on the first of the month. Your landlord is your partner. He's like your silent partner. He's only in for 10%, or give or take, but he's your partner nevertheless, because he's going to get his money before your partner gets any money. Before either one of you take any money out of the business, you're going to have to pay your bills. Also, another factor that you might want to discuss with your partner is, at what point are each one of you going to draw money out for yourselves? Now, one of you may be the creative person. The other one is going to do all the efforts in selling. And the other one who does the selling says, hey, look, if it wasn't for me, we're not going to sell $1 worth of product. And meanwhile, the designer is going to say, well, if it wasn't for me, we're not going to have anything to sell. So therefore, I'm entitled to just as much money every month as you are. And meanwhile, the salesperson says, well, look, I'm the one who brought in $1 million worth of sales last month, so I'm the one who should be getting, the commission, not you. You produced the line, but once you designed it, all you're doing is replicating the line week in, week out. You haven't done anything new. All you're doing is supervising production and, looking over the factory that's producing the garments. So therefore, maybe you should be getting something at the beginning, but, later on, I don't know if the split. Well, this is something that's very, very important when people are starting out. They really have to come to a decision over what each party is worth, what each party is contributing to the business, what each party will end up drawing in the sake of compensation, and ultimately what kind of dividends will be paid to each party, if any, and again, for ultimately what kind of stock warrants, stock options, stock shares are going to be owned by each of the parties to the company. Okay, now, are there anything else that we want to talk about today, which I believe we should cover?
I think you've given me a broad spectrum.
All right. Well,
answer,
Carol, thank you. I just went on and on, but I hope you got a complete answer. I see that we're running out of time. Thank you so much for calling in, and I hope you'll continue to look and watch us next week. And again, have a wonderful weekend. All right. All right. With that said, we're coming to the close of the show very shortly. I want to thank my viewers. I want to thank my listeners. I hope every week my audience increases. I'm looking forward to helping you women, particularly out there, as well as men. I don't mind having men turn into the show and get some tips. A lot of these tips that I'm giving apply to men going into business, legal issues as well. Men want to know about divorce as much as women do, although women are really the people that I want to protect most, because I believe they don't get the advice that they truly need. So I believe that this show will benefit people, particularly women, in the future, and I really hope that you'll continue to tune in. Thank you very, very much, and I want to wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. Take care. Be well. Thank you for listening and watching Ask Robert today. It has been my pleasure sharing with you up-to-date information about the stock market and business, as well as investing, financing, real estate, and other commercial and general subjects. My guests are specifically chosen by me to provide sharp thoughts and ideas on the various subjects affecting the economy in a unique and informative manner. I enjoy answering your calls, and you can reach me at 561-483-2334 or by email at bobseibel, BOBSEIBEL @yahoo.com. Remember, knowledge is power. Dare to be great, because so few people make the effort. This has been Robert Seibel. I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Have a great week.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were